Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I'm talking about the Mavic 3 and the Pro versions, because apparently there's going to be a Cine version, and I assume that's going to be the Pro version. I'm not 100% sure, but the Cine version seems to be promising for a lot of cinematographers like myself out there, and I'm more keen to that than I am just a regular Mavic 3. So we're just going to go over some of the user manual of the Mavic 3 Cine that has been released, because it's going to come with a dual lens camera. I'm going to get quickly right into it. So this drone is going to come with omnidirectional sensors as well as infrared sensors. So if you've seen Sony's new AirPeak drone, it does have an infrared system as well as I think it does have a LiDAR type of sensor. So it's kind of using both and utilizing it, but I'm not sure if this has a LiDAR. It just has omnidirectional, which usually means it has cameras or sensors that sense different directions like it already did in its previous versions. But this time it does have sensors on the top as well. So I'll show you a picture of that on the screen. And then it is going to come with a telephoto and a wide angle, so that's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to go over the specs of that, of how many millimeters it is in terms of focal length in just a bit here. It shoots 5.2Ks in video, and that's also going to shoot 20 megapixels in stills. So as we already know, the Mavic Air 2, the version that I have right here, it does shoot 48 megapixels in stills. So obviously this is a Cine version. It's not really for photos, more for video. So I understand that. That's totally fine. Now it's obviously going to come with DJI's proprietary intelligent flight modes. So those are going to be, you know, everything that you're currently used to. Quick shot, you know, doing panoramas and time lapses, doing tracking, all that kind of stuff is going to be still there. Now I'm going to show the manual over here as well as far as specs, so you can kind of read them as I explain them. So right off the bat, we see 920 grams at the very top. It's not a light drone. It's not supposed to be, okay? It's not. They're not trying to go for the 250 grams, so you don't need a license type of thing. They do have a dual lens on this, so that's another thing. The flight time on this has also increased, if you haven't known. So the battery, I'm not sure if it's going to be any bigger than what it was, but I do know that it has increased to 40 minutes or 45 minutes, so that is significantly more than what the Autel Evo is going for. So, you know, DJI is trying to do something, right? It's trying to get some longer flight times. Eventually it's going to be an hour one day. All right, so we're going to get into the camera specs for just a second here. CMOS sensor, 1/2 inch for the telephoto with 12 megapixels, and we are seeing a wide angle camera, micro 4/3, and that is going to be 20 megapixels. So that's pretty good. Micro 4/3. It's a sensor size that's getting phased out a little bit, but they're trying to bring it back for some of the drones because they can house it, and it could effectively make it better in terms of, because micro 4/3 aren't really known for their really good rolling shutters. So in a drone, it does make sense to have, and I think that's pretty good. Unless you're taking, you know, shots of a still drone and then cars or trains are whipping past, then you might get that rolling shutter. But otherwise, micro 4/3 will do just as well, and there are pretty good micro 4/3 sensors. If you can make it effectively, then there will be a very good chance that low light performance on this drone will be pretty good as well. All right, so we're just going to go over the camera lens features here before we just did the sensors. So field of view is going to be 15 degrees with a 35 millimeter format, but it is equivalent to a full frame of 160 millimeters. So obviously it's going to be pretty punched in. It doesn't seem like it's going to have a zoom feature, so you're just going to flip onto the telephoto and it's just going to be punched in already, just kind of like your iPhone, but your iPhone at least has like a zoom range in between. But just think of your iPhone feature, just tapping on that telephoto, boom, you're going to be in that telephoto mode. And then you're going to have aperture of f4.4, so not too bad. Focus of 3 meters up to infinity, so that's pretty good. And then now we're going to go into the wide angle. Field of view is 84 degrees, so not too wide, but it is wide enough for most field of views. 35mm format equivalent of that, and you're looking at 24mm equivalent. Now, one other important spec here is shutter speed. ISO range, you know, we don't really care too much about that, because if you go to the telephoto, you're going to see electronic, and that's only electronic for a telephoto. And then when you go to the wide angle, you're going to see mechanical and electronic being faster, of course. So I kind of wonder how that is going to go, but my guess is when you go over the certain threshold of the mechanical speed, then it's going to switch automatically over to electronic once you go above, what is it, like 1/2000. So if you go over 1/2000, I'm pretty sure it's just going to automatically switch over to electronic, so you can go up to 1/8000. All right, so now going over to the next page here, I'm going to throw it up again. We are going to see just the basic specs here, obviously all numbered, but I want to just point out a couple things here. Is the rear vision system, forward looking system, obviously you're going to have it. It's going to be the onboard camera. I'm not sure if they're going to have another camera on top of it, just like the Sony Air Peak drone. It does have a separate camera just to sense things, but I think the rear vision is going to be for the omnidirectional and the infrared as well, so it can have sensors behind, but it's actually actively looking, not just a normal sensor type of thing. When it detects something close, it's actually taking a visual, so that is pretty interesting. So if you notice closely at the picture here, you're going to notice that the back of it has a battery indicator, and I'm kind of thinking it's the same design feature as your FPV drone that the DJI released earlier, and where they basically slot in the battery from the back. So I think that's going to be pretty much the same ordeal. That would just mean that all your batteries are a no-go for this version, and it's solely proprietary to the Mavic 3. And also you're going to see number 17, which is going to be your SD card slot and your USB-C port there. So it's a bit different. I don't like it how, so before when you had your drone, you would have to basically move the arm sideways in order to access your SD card. Now it's just going to be straight at the back, so even when you have the legs folded, you're going to still be able to access it from the back, and that's just more convenient. I don't know why they didn't think of it in the first place, but they did it nevertheless. Oh, I almost forgot to even go over the Mavic 3 in a sense. So Mavic 3 has not really a manual to show for, but they do have a drawing sketch of it. And basically this drone is going to have a singular camera, probably a bigger camera. I'm not sure if it's going to go micro four thirds, or maybe I can see it going micro four thirds because they already have a 1-inch sensor. So I can see that happening. They're just not going to have a telephoto version of it. Other than that, it's going to have upward sensors, air scoops, just like the Mini 2, so that's going to be pretty cool, and then another rear loading battery. So I think that's going to be somewhat of a trend, because they do want to put more components on top of the drone instead of it being all behind. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good move. All right, so now on to the new smart controller. This is going to be version 2.0, and it looks pretty similar to the previous version. So if you have the old version, it looks pretty similar. I'm not sure how big the size is. It looks to be like it might be a little compact. I honestly think if you don't want to use your phone as kind of like your monitor and to use as a screen, then I highly recommend to get the smart controller. But again, it's going to be pretty expensive. So it's kind of like, if you have a spare smartphone, then that's always good to use. I use my iPhone 7 Plus sometimes to just put onto the drone controller, and then I can have my other phone just to take calls and stuff, right? I had to fix my exposure there for a second. The sun went behind the clouds. But anyways, the new antenna system here is going to have extended range for the drone and the remote controller to actually communicate with each other. So it says 15 kilometers, so that's pretty good. Honestly, there isn't that much, I would say, until they actually release it and, you know, they go over everything in terms of what it can do. But as far as the manual goes, that's what it has for us. It can last 3 hours in battery time for the controller as well. And again, this is smart controller, not the controller that is probably going to come with. If it does come with a smart controller though, the price range would be astronomical, probably looking in around like obviously 2,500 plus, even more. But with the drone itself being by itself, I think the base model, the Mavic 3, is going to be around 1,600. That's the rumor. And then once we get up to the Cine version, dual cameras, I would say the price is nearing $2,000. So that's obviously US dollars. So just so you know. But otherwise, yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy. It's gonna be out of reach for some, but there'll always be people who would buy it. As far as when this drone is gonna come out, I can say anywhere between end of October to mid-November, and that is kind of being optimistic just because I don't know if they have issues with chip shortage. But anyways, if you guys like this video, please smash the like button, consider subscribing if you like these type of leak videos, and yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.